Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to all of you for the Saturday evening program of Bhagavad Gita discussion. So today we are going to discuss from the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the first 4 verses. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidhaivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the Self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Adi yagna katam ko atra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katam neyosi niyatatmabihi. Who is the Lord of sacrifices? And how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotion service know you at the time of death? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro Visargah Karma Samjitaha. The translations, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or the fruitive activities. 8.4 Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushascha adidaivatam adiyagno aham eva atra dehe deha brutam vara. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adibhuta. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as a super soul in the heart of every embodied being, I am called Adi Ekya. I request all of you to open Bhagavad Gita book in front of you, because all the questions I am going to ask and you are all going to give the answers. So my first question to all of you is the first and the second verses of Bhagavad Gita, the 8th chapter. Arjuna asks questions. So what prompted, we discussed all this. Sarvapan Prabhu was saying, Krishna, spoke on the last 2 verses of 7th chapter. Krishna said, Jara Marana Mokshaya, O Arjuna, if you want to liberate from the cycle of, the old age and as well as death, there is only one way you can come out of this, by taking shelter of me. So as soon as Krishna said, by taking shelter of me, he need to address again, who is he? So then he says, Te Brahma Tad Vidu Krishnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakilam. So he says, only intelligent people would be able to understand that, to come out of the cycle of old age and, death, they need to take my shelter. Only intelligent people will be able to think in that direction. So, those people who think, Krishna says they are Brahman. Those people who think we need to liberate from the cycle of birth and death, old age and disease, they are the intelligent people, and when they think we need to come out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease, what they do, they take the shelter of me. They are actually the Brahman. Lord Krishna says, everyone says we are actually spiritual. Just going to the medical university doesn't mean that he becomes a doctor. So, all people who go to engineering doesn't become engineers. So, all human living entities, though they are Brahman qualitatively, but they have forgotten their nature completely. So, hence, you cannot climb. Similarly, human beings cannot climb. I am a human being, because scripture says human being has certain qualities. If human being also behaves like an animal, there is absolutely no way he can be called as human being. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunamshcha samanya etat pashupinnarana Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. So all animals do, eating, mating, sleeping, defending, and even if humans also say, they only do all these four activities, how can they call be humans? Similarly, Krishna says here very intelligently, they are actually Brahman. Who are Brahman? Those who have understood they need to come out of the cycle of birth and death. Who actually in this world really think about that? Even richest person in this world, he doesn't think about. He thinks that he will keep his assets for ever. Yeah. So those people who really think about coming out of the cycle of birth and death, they are intelligent because as soon as they think about it, immediately what happens? They start looking for the solution. The solution is taking shelter of Krishna. They are actually Brahman. So please understand, Krishna is saying, who are Brahman? Who actually understands, realizes that we need to come out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. They are spiritual. You cannot say I am spiritual. Yeah, you are, but it's like dreaming. I'm the millionaire of this world. I'm the richest person in this world. Dreaming, you get what I mean? Desire is something. Deserve. You need to be deserving. Deserving candidates are those who understand, realize that I need to come out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And Krishna says they are the intelligent people because they take shelter of me. Without taking shelter of Krishna, there is no way we can come out of this cycle of for birth, death, old age, and disease. Yeah. And Krishna says they are actually Brahman because entirely know everything about transcendental activities. If you need to come out of the cycle of birth and death, what do? You get what I mean? So if you say I need to go to Australia, what do you do in Australia? I will go to Australia. You cannot just say I will go to Australia. You need to plan what you are going to do there. Without even planning what you are going to do there, you get what I mean? So if you are planning to come out of the cycle of birth and death, that means that you are not going to be in this world. If you are not going to be in this world, you need to think about what you are going to do in the other world, spiritual world. So Krishna says they are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Activities they need to do where? In spiritual world. Because in material world, birth, death, old age, disease is a package. Whoever comes here, it is completely, perfectly packaged to each and every living entities that they have to go through. If they don't want to go through, they have to understand what is the activities that they need to engage in. They are Brahman. So then, Krishna says, Ta Adi Bhutam, Sa Adi Daivam, Mam. Krishna says, Mam, me. Krishna is saying me. Adi Bhutaha, governing principle of material manifestation. All that is changing in this world is happening according to whom? Krishna. Adi Daivam, he is saying governing principle of all the principal deities of this universe of creation who take care of the day in and day out activities. Krishna said, Adi Bhutam, Adi Daivam. Adi Yagnam Chame Viduhu. Please, Viduhu, oh intelligent person, please understand, realize that I am also the Lord of all the sacrifices. Krishna said, I am the governing principle of all the material manifestations. I am the governing principle of all the principal deities who take care of this entire universal affairs. I am the Lord of all sacrifices. So one who realizes this, they would be able to remember me at the time of death. So Krishna told this. As soon as Krishna spoke this, Arjuna asked these questions. What prompted Arjuna to ask these questions? So Krishna actually, spoke in the last two verses of 7th chapter that prompted Arjuna to ask. Now, importantly, I told one thing. What actually This concludes Bhagavad Gita as. This proves Bhagavad Gita as a dialogue, a scripture of dialogue. It is not a monotonous unilogue. It is a dialogue. It is a dialogue. It is a question, discussions that is happening between Arjuna and Krishna. It is scientific. Yeah, it is a scientific scripture. It is not that one person is just speaking without any relevance. Krishna relevantly answering questions of Arjuna, Arjuna relevantly asking questions which actually prompted him to ask questions because he felt there is a need for him to get all this clarification because he was in the battlefield where he is fighting. So these questions are also relevant to us because we are also fighting in the battlefield. So now first question is answered. Next is, what are the questions asked by Arjuna to Krishna? So first question is, what is Brahman? What is self? What are the karmic activities? Who are demigods? Who is Lord of sacrifices? What are fruitive activities? Very good. Yeah, so what is material manifestation? Now I am going to ask you another question. We discussed about this. Why does Arjuna ask Krishna, what is karma? See, what is karma? It is already answered in the second, third, fourth, fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What was the need for Arjuna to ask, what is karma again? That too in the portion of Bhakti Yoga. You are getting what I mean? In the portion of Bhakti Yoga, why is that Arjuna is asking Krishna what is karma? So, why did Arjuna ask this question? Because Krishna said, Adhyatma, karma chakilam, that person is, the intelligent person is one who performs the activities, who understands what are the transcendental activities. Adhyatma karma chakilam. In Adhyatma also there is a karma. But there is a vast difference. There is a paradigm shift between karma in the material world, karma in the spiritual world. Yeah? That is why Arjuna got confused. Why is that? Karma, the word karma is coming again for those who come out of the cycle of birth and death and go back to the spiritual world. Arjuna was thinking, liberation means inactivity. You just close and you become Brahman, merge, and there is absolutely no activity. But as soon as Krishna says Adhyatma Karma Chakilam, he performs the transcendental activities in the spiritual world. Arjuna asks, what is karma? Now he's going back to again the basics. Yeah. So he wanted to understand now what is transcendental activities. Yeah. But Arjuna didn't ask this, tell me what are transcendental activities. Arjuna asked, please tell me what activities means. I'm confused. Because activities till now, I thought all the material activities which perform in this world. Activities in the spiritual world exist, which I was not aware of. Please tell me. Yeah. Another thing I said, what is Brahman? So I gave an example of going to Australia. Going to Australia means one understands, one realizes how to live in Australia. How to live in Australia means there is a culture in Australia. You need to realize the culture in Australia. Australian means one who knows the culture of Australia. How you need to greet, what questions you need to ask. Never ever ask anyone in Australia, who are your parents, where are they staying? How many children you have? Don't ask anywhere. Don't ask, are you married? Don't even ask, some of the questions which are, these questions are very, very sensitive. You should never ever ask. Yeah. So there is a culture when you go to Australia to live. How to greet, there is a culture. How to eat, there is a culture. Yeah. How to go to toilet, there is a culture. So this culture, we all need to realize it, and there is a training that goes in for anyone going to Australia. I too had training in 97, 98 before I went to Australia. How I should actually prepare myself. Similarly, anyone who is aspiring to go back to spiritual world to serve Krishna, he needs to actually develop that culture. Just now I said, although we are all Brahman, we are not, because awakening is needed. Although we are all Brahman, but those who reawaken that quality of spiritual, they are actually Brahman, because Krishna says, Brahman are those who are Brahman, I just spoke, who understands there is a need to come out of the problems of birth, death, old age and disease by taking shelter of whom? Krishna, Parabrahman, who is Parabrahman. Yeah. So this is actually Krishna speaks that they are Brahman. There is one question none of you have asked. What is Brahman? What is self? What are karmic activities? Who are demigods? Who is Lord of sacrifices? What are fruitive activities? What is material manifestation? There is one question which is pending. Two questions. What is Adhyatma? How should one engage at in devotional service at the time of death? Yeah. Now tell me, according to Lord Krishna, now he is answering in third verse of the 8th chapter. Now Lord Krishna is answering the third verse of the 8th chapter. What is Adhyatma? So tell me, what is Adhyatma? We spoke about Brahman now. I hope it has synced into each one of you. So what is Adhyatma, as Lord Krishna is speaking about? Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavaha Adhyatma Uchyate. What is called Adhyatma? Swabhavaha. Nature of the living entities. We need to actually see, becoming Australian is one thing. Becoming Australian is one thing. Taking citizenship card, yeah, becoming Australian. But living Australian is another thing. You go to the training and you go and reform yourself, and once you go back, if you go and greet someone in a different way, we will not be called as Australian people then, right? We will be having a different culture, behaving in a different culture. So, to Adhyatma means nature, how we develop the nature of living in the spiritual world. It is called the Adhyatma. What is the nature of the living entities, those who live in the spiritual world? What is the nature of them? Satchidananda Vigraha, yeah, that's Satchitananda. They are ever blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. Knowledge of what? How to serve Krishna. Machitta madgatah pranaha bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. That is the nature of those who live in the spiritual world. So Krishna says Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Why say Krishna says Aksharam? Yeah, any activities we do, it never gets destroyed. So we will come to that Karma Samhita. We will come to the karma from this. What Aksharam is actually Adhyatma Karma Chakinam is Aksharam. Adhyatma Karma is Aksharam. Yeah. So it is indestructible because whatever you do, it will not result in birth, death, old age, and disease. All the spiritual activity we perform in the spiritual world will never result in birth, death, old age, and disease. Now we will come to karma. How karma will result in Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. So we will discuss about that. So Brahma Paramam Swabhavaha. So Swabhava Adhyatma Muchyate. Swabhava. You all of you now got what the Adhyatma means? So developing that nature of intensity of serving Krishna. And Machittaha always thinking about Krishna. Without that, though you might go through the training, we will fail in the interview. Yeah, we will never be able to even behave. So without that qualification, reformation is very much needed. So Adhyatma we need to become now before even becoming eligible to going back to the spiritual world. Yeah. So Swabhavam Adhyatma Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visargaha Karma Samjitaha. Krishna is saying Karma Samjitaha. Karma, this is called Karma Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. What is the meaning of Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha? Why Krishna is equating karma with creation? So karma basically is driven for creation. Creation triggered by our desires. Desires are triggered by our previous actions. So Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. So Bhuta means material world. Bhava means our actions. What does it do? Udbhava Kara. It keeps on creating another actions. Unactions creates another actions. Another actions creates another actions. Visargaha creates. This is called karma. Krishna answers Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Kara. That which actually induces one to create actions in the results. That is called karma. Why does Krishna doesn't say here about Adhyatma Karma Chakina? Because he wanted to reiterate and bring back Arjuna's thoughts back to the basic foundation of karma so that he can now speak about the activity in the spiritual world also. Yeah. So Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. So Bhuta means that produces the material bodies. Yeah. And what actually induces one to take birth after birth after birth? The activities we do. The activities we do, if we keep on doing the activities of this material world, we will keep on creating more and more and more material bodies. If we develop the spiritual desires, that is the start of manifesting our true nature, eternal nature, which is spiritual body. Yeah. So, Adibhutam Ksharabhavaha. Krishna says in the 4th verse, Adibhutam Ksharobhavaha Purushascha Adidaivatam. So, Krishna is now saying the physical manifestation, Adibhutam Ksharobhavaha, constantly changing. How is that? Something which is constantly changing is called as Krishna. Where Krishna said, I am Adibhutam. In the last verse of 7th chapter, Krishna said, I am the Adibhutaha. But here it says, Adibhutam Ksharobhavaha. Means the Adibhuta, the physical manifestation, is Ksharaha. Kshara Aksharaha. Kshara means what? Destroy. Akshara means what? Indestructible. Kshara, which destroys, is the only one which constantly changes. I'm going to get destroyed. That's why I'm getting gray hairs. Which, if I was constant, I would have been in a youth like Krishna's form. Never becoming old. Yeah. So Adibhutam Ksharo Bhavaha. Adibhutaha, physical manifestation. Ksharaha, constantly changing. Bhavaha, nature. But Krishna said, I am the Adibhuta. Why? Krishna becomes the Adibhuta which constantly changes. Why does Krishna say? So, Ksharaha, though Krishna is Akshara, Kshara also resides within him. Because Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyase Characha. Yeah? And Krishna says, I am the source of everything. Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutana. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. Mata Sarvam Pravartate. So what comes out of me is, though eternal, it is constantly changing. Material world has been existing forever. Natvam evahu jatunasham, natvam nevachanadipaha. Material world is existing, spiritual world is existing, but there is difference between those two. Material world is Kshara, spiritual world is Akshara. Yeah? So, material world which is constantly changing, it gets destroyed. But this destruction happens, that doesn't mean that it is not the energy of Krishna. It is also energy of Krishna. That's why Krishna says in the last verse of previous chapter, 7th chapter, that Aham, the Adi Bhuta. Yeah? So then, Adi Daivam Mam, Krishna says, he is the universal form that includes all the demigods. So why does Krishna answer Arjuna? Arjuna's question is, who are demigods? Why did Krishna have to say, I am the universal form? He didn't say demigods are the presiding deities of different universal affairs of this world. He said, I am the universal form within which includes all the demigods, so that Arjuna understands the demigods are the source of all the demigods. Adi Daiva is Krishna only. Yeah. So Adi Yagnam Aham Evatra. So Krishna says, I am the Adi Yajna. So can any one of you tell me, how is it that Lord Krishna can be the Lord of all the sacrifices? Give examples. That why is that Lord is Lord of all the sacrifices? Why? Because any results, who is supposed to give the results for what does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means sweating. We are sweating for some results. Who gives the results? Without permission of Krishna, nothing moves. Hence, one who controls the results is Krishna. That's why Krishna is the Lord of all the sacrifices. So, Dehe Brutam Vara. So he says, I am sitting in the super soul in the heart of every living being. So what is the need of Krishna now saying I am the Lord of sacrifices and I am sitting in the heart of every living entity? So that it makes sense for each and every individuals to understand that Krishna is actually witnessing each and every activities what we do as a Paramatma in each and everyone's heart. Just like the two birds of the tree. One is eating the fruits of the tree. Another one is witnessing the activities of the tree, activities of the bird, which is actually eating the fruits of the tree. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells, I am the witnesser. Upadrishtaha, Anumantaha, Bhartya, Bhokta, Maheshwaraha. Paramatmeti chapi ukto dehesmin purusha paraha upadrushtaha anumantaha. I am actually sitting in each and everyone's heart. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha. I am the controller of everything. I am the enjoyer. And I am the giver of the results also. Paramatmeti chapi ukto. I am called the super soul. See how wonderfully the fourth verse of 8th chapter connects back to the 13th chapter. Interlinked. All the verses of Bhagavad Gita is interlinked. One who really understands this, he becomes completely, captured by the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. The only way we need to motivate ourselves reading Bhagavad Gita is understand that Bhagavad Gita is a science, is a lively book. It is not something boring. Krishna is speaking relevant to this world. Arjuna's questions are relevant to this world. Yeah.